What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey kids, I'm back on the radio this week. Yay! Finally, it's Wednesday, and I'm so very excited, and I feel so terrible because I've been trying to get Marco on my show 3 different times now, and finally, with lots of coordination, we were able to find time to speak to one another today. So in case those of you don't know who I'm interviewing, the gentleman's name is Marco Gozzo, if I said that right. Hopefully I'm not going to insult him. He is originally from Italy, which we all know is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. And so we are going to be talking about his short film, Nando. I actually got introduced to him when I was at the SoHo Film Festival. Turns out that his independent film was not only won at SoHo for Audience Award for short film, but also went on to another, let me make sure that I get this right, it's called the Short HD Channel. Back in November of 2013, it was also named one of the top 10 shorts. So I'm extremely excited to talk to him today about Nando, also about the other short film that he did, the editing work that he did in the past, and of course, obviously the transition that he's made in between Italy and, of course, New York City, because he's obviously no longer a citizen of that country. So without further ado, let's get Marco on the line and we'll start talking. Marco.
Hi, Cindy.
Oh my gosh, it's you. Hi, nice to see you again. Not in New York City, but nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank
There's
you.
So much
thank
to
you
talk
for
about.
having me.
Oh, anytime at all whatsoever. I didn't realize how versed you were until I actually started researching you, and I started to find out all these neat little tidbits about you. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you. There's a lot to talk about, actually. Probably more than you realize. I've done my job. I am too, actually.
There is always too much to talk.
Yes. Well, exactly. We'll try to condense it within an hour, so I won't take up too much of your time. But there's just so many topics I want to cover because, first of all, as I was telling my listening audience, you're originally from Italy, which has a very dear place in my heart. So I want to talk a little bit about your transition from starting off in Italy, and I know, of course, that you didn't move into New York City until 2009, so you've only really been a resident there for about 6 years or so. So how difficult was that transition, culturally and otherwise, to make from leaving Italy to coming here? What's the pro and what's the con?
Well, it wasn't easy for sure. It wasn't terrible, but definitely there is a difference in the culture, in the way of how people see social life, and to not mention that my last 2 short films that I did, they were like shooted in Italy. So when I moved to New York, I had sort of like to rethink some stuff, the way of I wanted to tell a story, because I feel like sometimes you feel the places, and if you can't feel the places, it's very difficult to write. So socially wise was a little bit hard the first year, but then, when you don't really have, the other option was to going back. So I was like, okay, I'm here now. I just need to adapt myself, and everything is going to be fine. So
I gotcha. I understand. Now, if we want to talk a little bit about, now obviously, of course, Italy is rich, not only with its food, but also its culture and its artistic value, etc. There's so many art forms that are alive and rich and well in Italy. Now, when you come to a place like New York City, how does that vary? Meaning, because you're from Italy, was it easier to gain success in the field that you're in by being in your home country versus coming to New York City? Was that a challenge for you, or was it an easy transition for you?
Well, it's. I think it wasn't easy, but it was very challenging because. Compared to, it's probably very general to say, but compared to where I come from a very small town in Sicily, and the quality of life is very good and everything. We have a beautiful sea and the weather and everything. It's nice, but compared to that, obviously New York was more challenging in a way that you constantly meet different people and you constantly have to adjust yourself to different type of culture. So that was very, I think, challenging, and I think definitely, being here gave me much more opportunity. I wouldn't say yet successful because I think for success you work every day. So there is not really a day that you are done working for success. So yeah, it was very interesting change, and I think it was very helpful to my career where I am nowadays, and hopefully will be more helpful for where I'm gonna go in the future. So.
Wonderful. Okay. Now I'm curious because it sounds to me as though, and I know this because of course, obviously I've watched your short film, Nando. I'm curious about all the projects that you've been involved in and such. Do you take parts of your Italian culture and try to integrate it into the projects that you do? Is that important for you to bring some of your home into the things that you work on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that when you have something inside and that is your culture, it's difficult to be something apart from that. Mm-hmm. So no matter how much you try, even if you're going to shoot something in New York, you're always going to bring a touch of something that comes from home. Matter of fact, I'm writing right now. I'm almost done with the script of a new short that hopefully I'm gonna shoot soon. And it's in New York, but it's the story of an Italian actor. So there is always that component that you bring with you, and because you never run away from home. Like you can change home, you can change place, but that place need to be always in your heart, and it will sort of like obsess you in everything that you do.
Sure.
I mean, in a positive way, and I think it's always something that adds something special to your work.
I agree.
And it's not easy because, as I was saying, like my last two short films were shot in Italy, and one was in Sicily, and the name is Fecurine. There is also, people can watch it on Vimeo. And the second one is Nando. And they are two very different stories, but they are very related with the land where I grew up. The first one and the second one of my grandfather with the other land where my mother come from. So there I sort of lived when I was young too. So those elements, we always gonna bring it with us wherever we go.
Sure. Oh, definitely, without a doubt. Now, I have two other questions about Italy. First of all, I had been, because I, of course, stalk on your page, although you probably don't know that, but I noticed that you were, I felt your disheartenment as it relates to Little Italy, and I myself have been to New York and I've been to Little Italy, so I'm curious because I haven't made it to Italy yet. The Little Italy that we see today, how close does it resemble anything relative to Italy itself? Because I've always been curious about that. I'm like, how they try to recreate it and make it as close as you can. Does it remind you of your homeland at all, or is it just kind of there? Does that make sense?
Not very much. I mean, I was there I went for a walk, and I was there because I was actually going to the Italian American Museum. Because basically 1 year ago I shot some interview about some puppeteering in Sicily, and so I find out that there was an old puppeteering in New York from Sicily that used to do this type of puppets, and so I was interested. I heard in the museum they had a bunch of them, so I went I was on a research trip, and I went back there and. There is really little left from Little Italy. I mean, it's more. It became such a nostalgic place, and in fact, on the picture that I posted, I say all it's left is just the icon that says the sign that says Little Italy.
Right.
But beside that, it's just. I mean, I love my people, but it's just a lot of restaurants that kind of pretend to give you the feeling of Italy, but there are not anymore the real people, I think. So,
sure.
But things change, and we get adapt to that, and we just gotta move on and come up with new stuff. Maybe we should found a new Little Italy somewhere in New York. I don't know.
I agree. I'm all on top of that. I'm like all over the Italy factor because I'm like, well, now that I have a lot more Italian friends, and of course some of my friends are mobster friends, and it's like they're all Italian. So of course you want real Italian food, and you want Italian culture, and it's hard to find. I would think Little Italy would have been relatively close. But here's the big question, because I have been trying for I don't even know how long. I don't know, I don't want to make myself sound ignorant, but I'm wondering if there might be a Cliff Notes for idiots like myself who have wanted, I'm not Italian by any means, but I have a love affair with Italy and Italian culture, and I wanted to learn how to speak. So I'm wondering if you can give me some cheat sheet or some easy way. What's the best way to learn your dialect? I've been curious about this.
I mean, the dialect, it's hard, but if you want to learn a little bit of Italian, definitely the best way is by watching Italian movies. I think, and maybe putting subtitles. So I think, that's how, I learned English at school, but I improved definitely my English with television and movies. So I think it's always the best way. And actually the best way is just to go there and stay there for 1 year. So,
right.
I suggest you to go for a long vacation. Like,
hey kids, we're leaving for a year. Let's just pack up and go to Italy. Yeah, I wish. In my dreams, my goodness, that would be great. Okay, I'll have to start watching some Italian movies for sure, without a doubt. So to those that don't know that are listening, I know that at age 14 you actually had left, because I know you mentioned being in Sicily, you actually left to go to Milan and to start pursuing filmmaking. And that's kind of a relatively young age, obviously, 14, when it comes to film. So tell me about that first endeavor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so actually a little correction. It was actually when I was 18 that I left to Milan. So I lived in Sicily, in this small village in the southeast of Sicily, until I was 18. So I did high school there, and that's actually when my passion for movies in general it was actually around 13, 14 that I started with, I was passionate about special effects. So I didn't even start with movies, but was more with behind the scene of the movies, because I had a good friend of mine that was passionate about comics and American movies, so we kind of got together every time, and it was actually when I was 14 that my father gave me my first camera, and with him we used to do like little scene, and we used to do like editing actually on camera because we didn't have any editing software. So it was like we shoot and then we cut and go to the next scene.
Right.
And that's when everything started. So and then when I turned 18. I wanted so bad to get out of Sicily because, as I was saying, Sicily is beautiful, but I had this love and hate relationship with Sicily because it's lovely, but at the same time, it feels like the time never passes. Everything is slow, and you just want. That is good if you want to relax, but your mind, I guess, is always faster than the places and everything. So I felt the need to go away, and also because of opportunity. So that's when I moved to Milan, and that's when I started my study about social media and cinema and TV. And that's in Milan. Was there for almost 7 years. I got my master's degree there.
Right.
In the meanwhile, that's around that time. Around when I was like 22, that's when I shot my first short film. It was Prickly Pear. The original title is Figurine. And then after that, when I was done with Milan, I was very lucky because my intention was really to get out of Italy. So I had a little chance to go to Canada because I've been in the States in 2005 for a short trip, but I knew how hard it was to get a visa here. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to start there, and then we'll see. But then I was lucky enough that I applied for the green card, and I won the green card lottery. So that's when I was like, I took it as a sign. I was like, okay, I gotta. It's a sign that I had to move to the United States and start my career. My real career as a filmmaker. So, and that in 2009 I moved in the States. That was a short story how all the things went.
Nice.
period of time. Yes.
And just so you folks know, because I wanted to follow up with that, not only does he have a master's in TV, cinema, and multimedia production, but also on the other flip side, your bachelor's is in science and communication technologies.
Exactly.
So my question is that when you started out getting all this education, was it always kind of set in stone that you were going to pursue this editing, writing, producing, directing sort of thing, or were you going to use that science and communication as a fallback, if you will, for a regular, maybe blue collar or white collar job, so to speak?
Well, I gotta do a little premise here. So I come from a family in which both my mother and my father had very stable jobs. So my mother is a doctor,
okay.
My father is an architect. So for them, the movie career wasn't really. It wouldn't give me any future. So when I would talk about that, they wouldn't see that as a job or as a safe income. That, in part it's true. It's not
sure.
very easy career to make, but in Italy it's a little bit different. Many people think in an old way, and so they weren't very happy that I was doing that. So I had to give to them something in a way, they were still supporting me at that time. So they were like, okay, what do you want to do? I couldn't say, movie school, because for them it wasn't a real thing. So
right.
It was a time in which in Italy there were all these universities about social media, about science of communication. I was like, okay, this is the closest field that I can, apply for. So I will make them happy. Then I'm going to get a paper. And then after that paper, I'm going to do whatever I want. So that was pretty much the deal that I had with them. And also I gotta say that in my mind, the think of directing and producing and being an editor now, it didn't came right away at that time.
Okay.
It was a dream, but at the same time in my mind was kind of far. So it was only after actually did my first short film. So because basically I started university, I finished the first 3 years. I asked them to go on a trip in New York, and that's when in 2005, when I do New York Film Academy for a month. And that's when actually my brain switched, and it's like, okay, I got to stop dreaming about, wanting to be a director, but I actually just need to do it. That's all I need.
Right.
I just need to take my camera and do something, because until that point, I was just talking, dreaming about it, it was only a fantasy in my mind, but it never got real until that point. And that's when I came back from New York, from that little experience that I did my first short film, Figurine. And when I started, I won different festivals in Italy with that shorts, and it was selected for many festivals. He had a little nice, sweet success, and it's funny how even when you start to win something, even your father and your mother, they're supposed to believe in you, even don't win, they started to be, actually probably got something here. So, and they became more supportive. I mean, they always believed me, but I guess, I understand. I think father and mother usually wants to say facts more than
definitely. They're a little skeptical until it happens.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
I totally get what you're saying. I do.
So yeah,
now,
after that, that's when I was more like, okay, I gotta do it. So, and after that short, that's, I finished my studies. I moved to the States. And then my grandfather got sick, and that's when he got sick. And actually, we found out about his cancer situation. He had a cancer on the liver, and unfortunately, in 3 months, he died. And that's when I decided to make Nando, my second short film. There was already in my mind, but because I used to talk with my grandfather he told me this story so many times, but I couldn't make the story mine. But then when my grandfather died, I was like, okay, it's not anymore about what I want, but it's about him. So that's when I kind of I found the strength to keep, to finish the script and involve some of the people here in New York and exactly 1 year later after that, we went to Italy. So 1 year later after he died, we went back to Italy, and that's when we shot the movie, and we did the short film. So.
Yes. Now, before we jump to the films, I have some more things here. I'm curious about this because I know you've attended, and this is two sides of the spectrum in my opinion. IULM, University, which is the Italy side of things. And I know that you've also done studies at New York Film Academy. So tell me something, educationally and professionally, which did you find more beneficial, your studies in Italy or your studies in New York relative to the Film Academy?
Well, I would say that my study in Italy gave me a lot of theory, so forced me somehow, because the problem I think of many Italian universities is that they lack in practice, so in hands-on. So you ended up studying a lot of theory of editing, sociology of movie making, and all these a lot of books, but at the end it's very hard to, they lack in practice, so you don't really make movies. I mean, we made little things, but compared to the university that you find here in the States, they are more well equipped. I mean, there is also to say that they are more expensive, so you get more equipment and stuff. And while the New York Film Academy, I think in a short time, there was 1 month, it gave me that hands-on that I couldn't get at my university. Because New York Film Academy was a lot okay, this morning we're going to do 5 hours of how to shoot a scene, and this afternoon we're going to be outside with 16 millimeter shooting something. So it's they rush you they force you into the process in a way you're forced to shoot something. You're forced to come up with an idea, and also you learn a lot about movie making. So I think, I benefit definitely from both. If I could reborn again and do everything again, I wish I could do something that would have both things. But that's fine. I don't regret. If I am here where I am, is also because of those two schools. So.
Gotcha, definitely. Now, I note here, and I'd like you to talk about this a little bit, because this is kind of cool. I haven't had a guest on my show yet who actually had spent some time working at some point. Apparently, you had at one time been employed by the Food Network.
Oh, yes. I was...
what did you do there?
So, Food Network, let's say that it's been 3 years and a half, short, that I started... working, my day job, my main income is as an editor. So it's been 4 years that I do editing stuff. And Food Network, I worked basically as a casting editor. We and the show in the specific was Chopped. And basically we were just, editing auditions of people and kind of we were trying to build this character and make it stronger in order to get selected for the show, and for because they used to pitch to the network, my boss, and that was pretty much my job. Yes.
I gotcha. Now, of course, I also note that you're currently, besides doing what you do, obviously, of course, and he does it so very well from the filmmaking side of things. High Noon Entertainment. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that.
Yes, High Noon Entertainment is part also of my main job, that is editing, and they have the show Cake Boss, and that's for TLC, and that's where I'm working right now as assistant editor, and I'm assistant editor for the story producers who edit, also edit part of the show, it's been an interesting experience because as assistant editor, I do a lot of stuff, but at the same time, they give me the chance sometimes to edit some parts or scene of the show. And it's been interesting because it's a reality show, and I don't think it's going to be my end goal, but reality TV is interesting because sometimes you learn how to build a story with not a lot of content. So it's like you have to make a story. So it's it's very editing wise. It's very good process to have it. And I think it's helping me a lot right now because I'm also in the editing of my editing a short doc that I shot 1 year ago, and I think it's giving me a lot of help in the way I'm approaching these things, even if they are two different things.
I gotcha. Now, although I've only met, obviously Marco and I have only met each other once, and that was, of course, at SoHo Film Festival. I got the sense, just in researching you and reading some of the things that you've actually stated before, obviously you have 4 different types of occupations: writer, director, producer, editor. My question to you is, although that you sound that you have a propensity and enjoyment for editing, it would sound to me as though that your heart really is on the writing component side of things. Would you say out of all of those roles that you manage, if you had to pick a favorite or one that you enjoy the most, which would that be?
Well, I would pick directing and writing. I can't imagine right now. Maybe I will one day. Just directing, because I feel I'm a type of person that I need to have control on something, and I enjoy a lot writing my stuff and directing my stuff, because they are, I think it's almost, right now, maybe I will do it in the future, but it's almost impossible for me to direct something that someone else wrote it, unless I'm not really very into it. So I would say that out of those, writing and directing are my favorite too. I would say they are my end goal. If one day I could live just by writing my movies and directing them, I don't want to be rich. I want to live out of that. So because the most important thing is to tell stories. So.
I gotcha. And speaking of telling your stories, this is an interesting dynamic because I, of course, have been a writer for a long time myself. And I found it interesting because you made this statement relative to writing, which is that in order for you to be a good writer, you have to have 2 things, which is, of course, you talked a great deal about being disciplined and, of course, having a strict schedule. And when I read that, I thought to myself, God, he would hate me. I am so ridiculous. I have no schedule whatsoever. I am completely non-disciplined. I write when I feel like it or when I have a show. But I'm like, how funny that we have the opposite ends of the spectrum. So tell me a little bit about, on that side of the fence, how you found that maintaining these principles has made you a better writer.
Well, first of all, let's say that really the 2 things that I wrote are my last 2 short films, and it's going to be, I'm going to do now my 3rd one. So I don't have a background that is very long on writing, but the reason why I talk about discipline is because I consider myself a little bit lazy. So I need
really?
I need a schedule, and I need to force myself at least for the first week into that. Otherwise, it doesn't come very spontaneously. And I think really sometime I realized when I did force myself into, stick on that schedule, he helped me a lot to come up with things. Maybe, the first 2 pages were just a lot of things that you will never use it. But I think the discipline forces you to think. And, first of all, maybe you're going to have stupid ideas and then less stupid. And even if some people would say there are no ideas that are stupid, but sometimes you realize what the hell I wrote now, doesn't make any sense. But that's good because that process stimulated you to come up with things that will lead to other stuff. And will lead also you in, in thinking about what is the meaning because of what you're writing in that moment. Sometimes the risk is that you go out of whatever was your final goal in certain type of stories. So basically I try to, to have a, wake up in the morning, have my breakfast, and right now I'm off from work, but when I work, I try to do that before going to work because I can't, to be honest, I'm a person that I can't write at night. I'm too tired, and I don't know you, but I know there are people who are really good, writing in at night, but I'm not one of those. So.
Well, you're in New York City, so I'm thinking to myself, why would he drive anyways? Because God knows when I've been in New York, it's just hell trying to get around. It's like there's just no way I like taking a car. It's like taxi cab, or it's the ferry is there, or whatever kind of public transportation you can find.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually talking about riding that tonight, not driving.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm like thinking, okay, gotcha. Okay, I have a question about this. Now, as it pertains to the writing, is there a particular genre or type of writing style that you have not attempted yet that you'd like to?
Well, I think I tend to write sort of like, I don't want to say dramatic stories, but more dramas.
Sure.
But I think sometimes I feel, I have the feeling that I have a good sense of humor sometimes. But so, maybe one day I would be more interested, I would like to write something that is more like comedy wise.
Okay.
So directed more to comedy, but I'm still not sure about that. So I think it's a process that I have to do very, very gradually, very slow, and maybe eventually at some point going to that. But I'm kind of fascinated by that.
And it's interesting you should say that, because we're just getting to the personal side of things. So I'm going to tell the folks a little bit about what I've learned about you from a personal side of things, because all of us have a day job with a day hat. And there's some interesting facts about Marco that you might not know, which is I've read your page and I've seen enough of what you had to say to know he has an impeccable sense of humor. He has a very, very lighthearted sense of humor. He's very, very down to earth. I've seen him actually use a curse word on occasion, which I think is cool, because everyone needs to curse every once in a great while, get frustrated and let their frustrations out. He drinks watermelon martinis, and I have to ask, what the heck is a martini? I get the premise. It's a watermelon martini, but I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't sound very good. So I'm wondering what the appeal is, because you drink this, right? I'm like, what's up with that?
I mean, I guess the taste depends a lot if it's your first watermelon martini or is your fifth watermelon martini. So maybe after the fifth watermelon, it can taste better than the first one. I actually was a while ago. I think it was in Puerto Rico that I had that martini, watermelon martini. Yeah, it's
interesting. He is also You're going to love this list, because I put together this list as I was looking on your page, and I'm thinking to myself, talk about, you are very, very across the board on your interests, because I was looking at some of the stuff. Well, first of all, you're a fan of jazz, which I think is awesome. So he's from Italy, he drinks martinis, and he's a fan of jazz. You're like on the top 10 on my list, right for that. On top of that is awesome. Not to mention the fact you work for Cake Boss at TLC, which is awesome. But listen to this. So now I'm going through and I'm checking out what he likes on TV and movies and such. So get this. He goes from Batman and Jurassic Park and Nightmare Before Christmas to Psycho, Walking Dead, Goodfellas, and Scarface. And I'm like, you've literally covered every genre there is. You have horror, you have animation, you have like sci-fi drama. I'm like, is there anything he doesn't like? I mean, seriously, do you hear that list? I'm curious, because I'm like, well, the Goodfellas and Scarface is obvious because it's Italian, but I thought to myself, how interesting. Would you do animated? Because you look the type that would probably attempt an animated type production.
Well, who knows? Maybe yes, because actually you're talking about this right now, and I remind that when I first told the story of my next short film to some person, a friend of mine, he was like, I could see that more as an animation short. I was like, that's interesting. Probably it would be less expensive for me to realize than the real one. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in animation is maybe not my main interest right now, but concerning Nightmare Before Christmas is there because I love Tim Burton. Tim Burton is with David Lynch and I can't remember the name right now. Giuseppe Tornatore, the Italian film director. Those are one of my favorite film directors. And I had a time in my life that I was obsessed with Tim Burton, with Edward Scissorhands, because I mean, beside animation that I love stop motion, and when I was little, when I was passionate about special effects in my young age, I kind of tried some little animated thing, but obviously very, very raw, very, not professionally wise. Right. But yeah, I definitely love Tim Burton, and I love his movies. He has definitely a unique look into things. And what I like is the child look that he has into reality, and I think I like that because I think I am like that, and I think it's something that I will put probably in my movies in the future. That I don't know really to explain in words. It's very difficult, but I like the fact that you can see the point of view in his movies of a child who look at the world for the first time. Sure. I feel. And especially in Edward Scissorhands. But I think now I went too far from your question, but
that's okay. You just kept talking about the Tim Burton thing, and all I'm thinking is Johnny Depp. And he's like in everyone. It's all Johnny Depp. And I'm like, who can't love a guy who puts Johnny Depp in every production? I'm like, okay, now I'm being a girl. I gotcha. But this is an interesting fact that you had actually, I concur with a great deal, and I wanted to touch base on this because I think both of us wholeheartedly agree, and maybe it's because of the age of technology, but we've lost connection with ourselves lately, and I think that that's an interesting dynamic to bring up because you are a filmmaker. And now I know that you had made a post up and talking about how nowadays everything is either texting or on social media or whatever. Nobody picks up a phone, physically writes a letter, types out a letter anymore. And I think to myself, I wonder if somebody should do a film, or maybe have they done a film about this. But I'm like, that would be an interesting dynamic to compose on a film or a TV set or something, talking about our lack of connection as people, as intimate beings. You know what I'm saying, right?
No, I totally feel you. I mean, I come from a reality, a small village in Sicily where you don't text your friend, you just call them if you want to go out. You meet a girl that you like, and you don't text her. If you like her, you call her and you ask her out on a dinner by talking to her.
Right.
So for me, like when I came here, the first thing that I remember, my first year, I used to live in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I remember one of my old roommates told me. So I at that time I met this girl like in a bar, and I liked her, so I tried to call her the day after. And I told my roommate, she didn't pick up the phone. She's like, she must thought you were a weirdo. You don't call a woman, you text a woman. I was like, why should text her if I can just ask by voice? And so that was the first lesson that I learned when I came into the States. But then that thing, it kind of like got worse. So now you go in the subway and nobody's looking at nobody anymore.
Right.
They don't look about what they have around. So they don't observe reality anymore. All they see is whatever is in front of their screen. So it's like they isolate themselves from everybody. I don't know. It's not doesn't. And if you notice, like even when you go in a bar, people are all like looking at their phone and
constantly.
And it's like,
yep.
And instead picking up on a bar, they just go on up to look for girls or for guys. And what's the problem with you? Just talk to that person in front of you. So I don't know. I think I'm saying that things are changing very fast, and he has his own positive things, but we don't talk anymore. And that to me is kind of sad. And definitely, it could be in some movies at some point. Who knows?
It's very, very unfortunate. I've said that before too. I think we just lose that intimate connection. And when you're at a point where you're at a restaurant or at a bar and you're out of places and everybody's looking at a phone and they're both sitting on a date and they're looking at the phone, and it's like, leave the phone alone. You got plenty of time to interact with people. You know what I mean? Oh, I could go on for days about that. Okay, so before we talk about your actual productions, I just want to ask this because I did do my homework, so I paid attention. The gentleman that he was your colorist for Nando, which is Maurice. I'm sorry, I'm doing this up.
Fortman.
Maurice.
Yeah.
Yes. we wanted to do a plug on this show. We are really big on shameless promotion, and I know he's doing a film. So should we talk about his film? Should we promote it a little bit? Can we promote it a little bit, or is it not there yet?
What are you talking about? Is a documentary that is?
You posted up something about him. He's doing some, and forgive me, I didn't write down the actual title of it, but I know he's involved in some kind of film, and I thought maybe we should do a shout out to that and talk to the people and let them know that something is coming, or is he just in development stage?
First, I want to say that Maurice is a great guy. He's actually, we don't see each other that often because he quite traveled a lot, so. But he's a good friend that I met on my first year in New York when I was interning in a post-production house. And he worked on my movie for free. And he's a guy who does a lot of professional stuff. And, he could have said no, but he said yes. And he did it even for free because he loved the movie. And we have, good friendship. And, he recently I didn't really watch it yet. I think I watched the trailer. But he shot a great documentary in Brazil because I think, if I'm not wrong, there is a huge Japanese community in Brazil, and he did a documentary about that. He did also a Kickstarter campaign that was successful, and I think his documentary is in the festivals.
Nice.
Yes. No, it's definitely. I saw the trailer and it looks very interesting. I don't know if you had the time to check it out, but
not yet.
Yeah,
but I'm hoping to, with any luck at all, definitely. So now we've reached that moment in time where we get to talk about the film Nando. So before I forget to mention to everybody two big things here. Obviously, as I mentioned, Marco and I met each other at the SoHo Film Festival, where my other friends, of course, Kelsey O'Brien with Enchantments, and of course John Gallagher and Steve Staniels with The Networker were there. And we got to meet you. By a fluke, actually, I happened to be walking out. We were all there at the same time, and sure enough, I was very, very blessed to meet Marco. And, of course, he gets talking to me about Nando. Not only has it won the Audience Award for Short Film at SoHo Film Festival, it was also named one of the top 10 shorts on the Short HD channel back in November of 2013. And I also know that you were at the, please help me with that name, Film Festival in Sicily. Is it Acqua Dolce?
Yes. Acqua Dolce Film
Thank
Festival, yes. It means actually sweet water, but that's actually a beautiful place in Sicily. In that festival, actually, I won the first time with my first short film, who won the prize for Best Sicilian Short. And with Nando, I arrived second. So I was part of that, but also we went in another festival in the south of Italy. It was also the short film corner of Cannes, and actually now is also available online on Amazon and iTunes. So we kind of actually are very lucky to get distribution because usually for shorts it's not very easy to get that.
Oh, you betcha, without a doubt, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, here's my first question. Excuse me. Now, just for those of us that are listening who may not know, Nando is set in the year 1944. So basically it's the end of the Second World War that's coming. And, of course, a lot of the interaction, the two main characters that we meet in here are obviously a railway worker who, of course, also is a soccer player. He has this dream and passion that he's going to grow up one day, basically, and be infamous. And, of course, in a short amount of time, their life changes, actually, because he comes across a German soldier. So, of course, he has this short interaction with this German soldier, which has lifelong repercussions, obviously, as we come to find out, and I don't want to give away the whole film. So what I'd like you to talk about to individuals that are listening that haven't heard the film yet, tell them your inspiration and motivation behind making Nando, because there's a specific reason or motivation why this was done. And then second of all, tell me how you ended up casting, because I think that the two main leads, the German soldier and the railway worker, were just amazing in their character portrayal.
Yeah. So I would say that obviously the motivation, the strong motivation was my grandfather's death. So after he died, I was like, okay, I got to do this movie. I can't, I had already have I think it was a second draft of the script at that time, but I was kind of very undecided because, as I told you before, I need to feel the story, and for me, there was a period piece, and when you make a period piece, you always gotta be careful what you talk about and the way you talk about. And my intention wasn't really I didn't want to make a political thing. I just wanted to tell the story of two people. They're different. They find themselves in the same room. So, but when, going back, when my grandfather died, that when I said, okay, I got to do that. And we started pre-production. And we did the auditions in Italy. We found all the actors in Italy. Even the German actor is actually an actor from Naples, but he happens to have the mother who is German. Because when I first saw the actor, I was like, this guy looks so perfect for the part of the bad guy. It would be perfect for a Tarantino movie. His face is so perfect. And but I wasn't sure about his German. But he kept telling me that the mother was from Germany and he could speak German. So there we tried a bunch of laughs, and he was very convincing on camera. And I also had an assistant who was a friend of mine who was speaking German, so she could check on his accent eventually. And that's and we found also all the other people in Rome when we did the casting. And concerning the inspiration that you asked me before, inspiration, I wanted always to make a movie about. I was fascinated by the idea of having two very different people from different backgrounds that in that moment of history happens to be enemy. And I was fascinated by having them in the same room and what they would talk about it. Because you are in a moment of history in which technically you're supposed to, bad things happen between them it was in a position, all the German soldiers were leaving the middle of Italy to go to the north because the Americans were coming from the south. And Cindy, I'm telling you this, my grandfather told me that at that time, in all these small villages, while they were leaving, many Germans that were killing even innocent people, just putting them on a line and just, killing them just because they were afraid they could give to the Americans or the English valuable information. And my grandfather at that time used to work in the station, so, he needed to be somehow killed. But what happened when you put different people in the same room, they are forced to socialize. They are forced to be into each other and see they are not so different from what they think they are. They have dreams, they have families, and that's what inspired me to make the movie at the end, the story, because that's the story that I want to tell. And that I told
and definitely. And you did. And actually, surprisingly, the interesting thing is, well, first of all, from what I can tell, it was shot all in black and white. Is that correct? Is it black and white?
No. No.
Oh, it looks like it's black and white.
No, it's in color.
It is. Okay. Because for some reason, it gives the appearance to me, or were there portions that were black and white? I'm not crazy. I know I've seen this. Because I'm thinking, wasn't it black and white? Because I'm a huge fan of black and white movies, obviously, which I've said for a very long time. The other interesting dynamic that I find out about this particular story is, well, not only was I surprised by the ending, and I'm not going to give the ending away because eventually people will watch this movie. So obviously I and you both know what the ending is, which I thought was a perfect ending, by the way. I appreciated that very much. And I thought to myself, okay, so you're the writer and the director of Nando. You did both. You did the writing and you did the directing and such. Did you, some part of me felt like there was an alternate ending at one time. But again, I don't know. I'm not the writer, so I wanted to ask and pick your brain a little bit. Like, it just felt like I thought like there could have been a second ending to that. So I was curious just to ask the writer himself, was there a way that it should have ended? Was there a second way that it could have ended, or had you written that, or was it just boom, that's it?
Well, the ending is sort of open. So we, I think it was always in my mind to leave the doubts. I mean, I don't really want to talk about how it ended, but I like the fact that you leave it open and the people kind of like they can make the ending in their mind.
Right.
It's not something that you watch and you're like, oh my God, I need to know what happened. It's something that at some point you can deal with it and you can't like say, okay, that's. I think the ending makes the story more melancholic and more nostalgic, in my opinion. But yeah, I always thought, and I think it was totally decided just to do that ending. I never came up with alternative ending.
Okay, so I'm completely wrong. That sucks because I thought, I don't know, there was just something inside of me that was like, well, maybe there was this or this or this, but you're the big man, I understand. I have to say that it not only is it beautifully done, but it's touching. I mean, I could have cried actually, and I actually watched it more than one time. It's very sentimental, and I'm very big on that. Anything with a point, anything that has, it's not, I mean, we all like entertainment, mind you, but this one has a purpose. First of all, obviously, it's, relative to history, because of course we all know that the World War actually happened, and a lot of times, or oftentimes, my feeling is that interactions like this happened a lot more often, between Germans and this and this and this. You know what I'm saying? So there's relatability as it relates to that. I wanted to have you flip the coin a little bit, and can we talk about the 6 years ago you had done, and forgive me, I can't pronounce it. Is it Farini? I want to say Farini, but that's not right, is it? How do you pronounce the name of the other film, your other short film?
Oh, Ficurinia.
There you go. See, I'm terrible. I'm going to be the worst Italian ever.
No, that's fine, because actually that Ficurinia, it's sort of like the Sicilian word for prickly pear. The Italian is called actually Fichi d'India. Prickly pear is, yes, and it's very story that has a specific place in my heart, because it basically represents my first short film.
Right.
So, and it's there are a lot of elements of Sicily and a lot of stuff where I come from. So it's very important to me. I mean, when you watch it, you can see on Vimeo, you can tell that it's not like professionally shooted, because that was my first time. I needed to do it, and when you need to let it out, and I did it. But the story is very smooth and sweet, and let's say that even Nando, I like the slow pace. So all my stories have certain slowness inside that is not too much, but not too small. So and it's the story about the little kid that got lost on the countryside of Sicily and ended up meeting the crazy man of the village. And the people in the village thinks it's crazy because he acts a little bit for them weird, and he does. But in true, he just does sculptures with garbage, with things left over from garbage. So he used recycle things. Yeah, he recycled things like bottle and stuff, and he makes those sculpture. And there is kind of I think a scene that on that short that was inspired to a little bit to Edward Scissorhands of Tim Burton, when the woman gets into the yard and you have all this sculpture. There is a similar thing on my short when the little kid gets, is getting for the first time in the house of this person, and you see all these beautiful colored sculpture made with bottles and things left from, on the side of the street that people just throw out. So yeah, and it's that is available for everybody on Vimeo, on my Vimeo page. So for anyone who wants to check it out.
So I have one final question for you before we wrap up the business things, which is this, because as I mentioned, obviously we were both part of an independent film festival, and you've done these before. Like, for instance, SoHo was one of the first three I've ever done before. So my question to you is this, and this is an important point, especially when I talk to filmmakers. I like to mention this to the common public, which is, in today's day and age, people are getting away from the big budget productions. Well, first of all, it's less affordable, clearly, and obviously, of course, I just want to know why you feel independent film is becoming a bigger and better component for people nowadays, filmmakers and writers and things of that. What advantage is there to doing the independent films versus the big budget extravaganza like the Mission Impossible I saw last night, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure they're paying Tom Cruise to the tune of what, 8 figures, 9 figures, whatever.
I think more more expensive is the movie, bigger is the budget, and
right,
and very, very high is the price that you pay. And obviously in big budget movie you have to you are obliged somehow to to kind of do certain things, and there's gonna be someone who's not gonna like the ending of the movie. It's gonna come to you, it's like, listen to this, we need also to make back the money with this movie, and we want this type of ending. And so being independent in a way allows you to struggle a lot, because it's very hard to find the budget, and many times you have to ask people to work for less, for nothing, and but it gives you more freedom to decide what you want, and there is I think that's the best thing, to be free somehow. So I mean, I'm not saying that someone come with me with a lot of money and ask me to make a movie. I would say no, but you gotta also see where you're gonna sell your soul or not. So I prefer not.
You bet you. No, so, I agree, 100%. Got it. Well, wonderful. Now, before I forget, I want to read this list off to everybody that's listening. So to those of you that have been listening in and they want to get a hold of or try to find Marco, I'm going to name all these things off. You just let me know if I forget anything. Obviously, your website is your name, which is Marco. That's Marco, and then GOZZO.com. The movie website, which is Nando. That's NANDO, themovie.com. You also have a Facebook page, personal one, as well as obviously for Nando the movie. You have a Twitter handle, which is @ and of course, same name, Marco, and then GOZZO. You're also on Amazon, Vimeo. You have an IMDb profile, and you're also on LinkedIn. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, also there is, we recently this year, we got Nando on iTunes, so it's also available on iTunes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna put soon the link on my website, yeah.
Okay. Now, before I forget, the third production that you're working on right now, when can we expect to see something from you relative to that one?
Well, I'm trying to lock the script, and I really hope, in the next 2 months, so I hope really maybe beginning of October to start shooting.
Okay.
But yeah, until I don't lock the script, everything is up in the air. But I would like to start pre-production as soon as possible. So
wonderful, and that gives him an excuse.
What?
That gives you. I was just going to say that gives you an excuse to come back on my show, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. I think that. I don't want to forget or be remiss to mention this to you, but one of the things that I can share with my audience that's listening today is that when I first met you, you were just so gracious, and he was so very humble. He was so intelligent about the subject he was speaking of, very, very polite. And like I said, he was very approachable. His work, I have to tell you, and again, I don't want to give too much away to the listening audience, but Nando is just, for a short amount of content, because we're not talking about a very long film here. In fact, what's the actual the take time from start to finish? How long is it exactly?
It's like 17 minutes.
That's what I thought. I thought it was somewhere around 15 or so, or something like that. For such a short amount of filming time, you were able to literally, and I don't mean cram in a bad way, but just literally get from start to finish to not only build your character development, but build your plot line as well. And then by the course of the film, not only are we getting to like the characters, but starting to actually get to know them. And then, of course, the end result there, which, again, we're not giving away. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm very, very excited to see what else is going to be coming out of your canister. Extremely excited. I'm so flattered that you took the time to actually talk to me for a whole hour. I'm very, very blessed and
No,
fortunate.
no
I
problem.
apologize again. It's taken
was a
forever to
pleasure.
get
It was
you
a
on this
pleasure.
show.
Can I mention something before I forget?
Oh, of course.
On my website, if people want to subscribe, there is like an emailing list that we're doing.
Okay.
So we're gonna update, the people about future projects, especially this one that hopefully we're gonna start shooting soon. That's it.
Oh, and we don't want to
So-
forget to mention the obvious. Now, obviously, like with Johnny Gallagher, his film, The Networkers, is going to the film festival. So my question is, are you going to be able, or can we look for actual distribution once you're done with the festival circuit, or are you done now, or what is the status of that? If people actually want to get a copy of Nando, are they going to be able to do so?
Well, yeah, the status of that is available on Amazon and iTunes. So for all the people that wanted to, it's not available on DVD, but they can download it on iTunes, and it's very. I think it's like $2 and something, $3. So it's not even
I gotcha.
like even
Wonderful.
big money.
It's affordable, people.
Yes, support indies people.
And you are absolutely amazing. Yes, I think you're awesome. I'm a huge supporter of indies, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to stay in touch. I'm working on something in my area because I live in Wisconsin, but of course I'm coming back to New York City sooner than later. So hopefully the next time I get to New York City, we'll get a chance to hook up and I can give you some exciting news because I'm working on finding a way to get all of my friends from New York to Canada to California to get independent films from all over the world to be shown here regularly, here in town, in Milwaukee. So we're working on that. So hopefully I'll have some good news. You betcha.
Thank
you.
Okay,
I'm not going to keep you any longer, my darling. Oh, no, Marco, it was a pleasure. And thanks again for being accommodating. And we'll stay in touch, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sure, we will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Marco. Wasn't he just fabulous? Oh, my God. I mean, I've never really had an Italian on my show. Hoo-ha! He's absolutely wonderful. I forgot to ask him about the love life thing and embarrass him, but he's amazing. Again, writer, director, producer, editor, Nando. I can't even tell you. People, you need to get out and you need to watch the short film. Before I forget, MarcoGozzo.com, NandoTheMovie.com are the websites. The Twitter handle is at Marco Gozzo. He is on Facebook with a personal page as well as NandoTheMovie.com. You can also find him on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, IMDb, and of course, obviously, his LinkedIn profile. Big, big hug, kiss, and thanks so much to Marco. As for tomorrow's show, I'm waiting on a confirmation. So my guess is it's going to be another 4:30 show. Stay tuned. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's one of my fellow radio professionals, but let me confirm that. So watch my page, watch the show page for my announcement for tomorrow, and of course, my show's on Saturday. If I don't get a chance to talk to you all later this evening, I do not want to forget about local talent. Tracy Hanneman, my dear friend Kostya, out at the Packing House starting at 6 or 7 o'clock this evening. If you're on the south side, check them out. If you happen to be close to Washington Park, my very, very dear friend Charles Walker Band is playing, of course, there. Obviously, we have an Irish, and Sherry Summers told me the name and I forgot, but there happens to be an Irish-type band down at River Rhythms this evening starting at 6:30. All my dear friends are out at State Fair Park, and there's just too many to count as far as live music goes. But if you're going out to the fair, make sure you go check out all of the smaller stages because I know at least the Three Little Pigs are playing, which is my dear friend Gabriel Sanchez and his band. So make it a point to get out there. Bottom line, folks, is to, of course, support local music. The other one I don't want to forget about, Jennifer Schaefer, of course, part of Mustache Molly at State Fair Park at the Sprecher Park. Okay, folks, I can't cram in anymore. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You guys have a great evening.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.